The clock on Vincent Harrison's nightstand glowed 3:15 in the morning as Marcus Chen pushed his cleaning cart down the marble hallway of the penthouse. His rubber-soled shoes made no sound against the polished floor, a skill perfected through months of night shifts in the billionaire's private residence. The building slept around him, 40 stories above the city lights that never dimmed. Marcus paused outside the master bedroom, listening for the steady breathing that meant his employer was asleep. Vincent Harrison, tech mogul worth $8 billion, lay sprawled across Egyptian cotton sheets, one arm flung over his eyes. But something was different tonight. Money. Lots of it. $20 bills, 50s, hundreds, scattered across the king-sized bed like green confetti. A fortune in cash, carelessly strewn around the sleeping billionaire. Marcus stepped closer, his practiced eye counting automatically. $250,000, maybe more. Enough to change everything. Enough to pay for Emma's surgery, the mounting medical bills, the rent he was 3 months behind on. His daughter's face flashed in his mind, her brave smile when she pretended the pain didn't matter. Vincent's breathing remained deep and even, but Marcus felt watched. He gripped his cleaning supplies tighter, knowing this moment would define everything that came next. Where in the world are you watching from tonight, and what time is it where you are? This story of choices and consequences is just beginning. Marcus backed away from the bedroom, his heart hammering against his ribs. He forced himself to continue his rounds, dusting the living room's 20-foot windows that overlooked Central Park. The cash burned in his memory like an afterimage, but he pushed forward with mechanical precision. By 6 in the morning, he was walking through the lobby of his own building, a world away from Vincent's marble palace. The elevator wheezed to the 4th floor, past neighbors he rarely saw. Inside his cramped 2-bedroom apartment, Emma was already awake, sitting at their small kitchen table with her math homework spread before her. "Morning, Dad," she said, not looking up from her fractions. At 9 years old, she had learned to be quiet in the mornings, understanding without being told that her father needed those first few minutes to transition from one world to another. Marcus kissed the top of her head, inhaling the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "How are you feeling today, sweetheart?" "Good," she lied, the same lie she told every morning. He could see the tightness around her eyes, the way she favored her left side. The doctors had been clear about the timeline. 6 months, maybe less, without the surgery they couldn't afford. He poured coffee from the pot she had already started, marveling at how responsible she had become. Too responsible for a child who should be worrying about playground games instead of medical bills scattered across their kitchen counter like autumn leaves. What part of this father-daughter bond reminds you of your own family? Share your thoughts as this story unfolds. Vincent Harrison stood in his private office at 7:30 that morning, reviewing the security footage from the hidden cameras in his bedroom. His fingers drummed against the mahogany desk as he watched Marcus Chen's reaction to the scattered cash. The janitor had stepped closer, counted silently, then retreated without touching a single bill. Interesting. Most of his previous employees had failed this test within minutes. His last personal assistant had pocketed $5,000 before Vincent even left the room. The housekeeper before that had taken smaller amounts, thinking he wouldn't notice. Trust was a luxury Vincent Harrison could no longer afford, which was why he tested everyone who entered his private spaces. Marcus was different, though. Vincent had noticed it in small ways over the past 3 months. The careful way he handled expensive items, never rushing, never careless. The fact that nothing had ever gone missing, not even loose change from the nightstand. And there was something else, something in the man's bearing that suggested he hadn't always been cleaning offices for a living. Vincent's head of security knocked and entered without waiting for permission. "Sir, you asked me to run a background check on the night janitor. What did you find, Stevens?" Marcus Chen, 34 years old. Former senior financial advisor at Whitman and Associates. Lost his position 2 years ago during a client fraud scandal. He was cleared of wrongdoing, but his reputation was destroyed in the media coverage. Single father, daughter named Emma with ongoing medical needs. Vincent leaned back in his leather chair, pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. A man with nothing to lose, yet he had walked away from enough money to solve all his problems. Either Marcus Chen was the most honest person Vincent had ever employed, or he was playing a much longer game than anyone else had attempted. The pediatric cardiology wing at Mount Sinai smelled like antiseptic and broken dreams. Marcus held Emma's hand as they sat in the waiting room, her small fingers cold despite the warmth of the heated building. Around them, other families waited with the same hollow expression he recognized in his own reflection. "Mr. Chen?" Dr. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, her smile professional but kind. "Can we speak privately for a moment?" Marcus squeezed Emma's hand. "I'll be right back, sweetheart. Keep reading your book." In the consultation room, Dr. Rodriguez pulled up Emma's latest scans on her computer screen. The images meant nothing to Marcus, but the doctor's expression told him everything he needed to know. "The condition is progressing faster than we anticipated," she said gently. "We need to move up the surgery timeline. I'm recommending we schedule for next month instead of waiting until spring." Next month. Marcus felt the walls closing in around him. "And the cost?" "The estimate remains the same. $250,000 for the surgery and recovery period. I know it's overwhelming, but there are payment plans, charitable foundations we can explore." $250,000. The exact amount that had been scattered across Vincent Harrison's bed like a cosmic joke. Marcus nodded numbly, thanking Dr. Rodriguez before returning to Emma. She looked up from her book with those trusting brown eyes that saw only her father, not a man drowning in impossible choices. That night, Marcus stood outside Vincent Harrison's bedroom door at 3:15, his cleaning cart trembling beneath his white-knuckled grip. The money was still there, scattered across the silk sheets like Vincent had simply rolled over and forgotten about $250,000. The bill seemed to glow in the dim light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Marcus stepped into the room, his movements careful and deliberate. Vincent's breathing remained deep and steady, but something felt different tonight. More watchful. The weight of invisible eyes pressed against Marcus's shoulders as he approached the bed. $250,000. Emma's surgery. Her future. Her life. He reached toward a stack of hundreds, his fingers stopping inches from the crisp paper. In his mind, he could see Dr. Rodriguez's gentle expression, hear Emma's forced cheerfulness that morning when she insisted the pain wasn't that bad. His daughter was dying, and the solution lay scattered before him like some cruel fairy tale test. Marcus's hand hovered over the money, trembling slightly. Vincent's breathing never changed, but Marcus felt the billionaire's presence like electricity in the air. This wasn't about the money, he realized. This was about who Marcus Chen really was, stripped down to his core values when everything else had been taken away. What would you do in Marcus's position? Sometimes life presents us with impossible choices that test everything we believe about ourselves. Share your thoughts as this moment of truth unfolds. Marcus pulled his hand back as if the money had burned him. He stepped away from the bed, his chest tight with a mixture of relief and despair. Emma's face flashed in his mind again, but this time he saw something else in her trusting eyes. The faith she had in him, the belief that her father was a good man who made good choices even when those choices hurt. He couldn't steal from Vincent Harrison. Not because the billionaire didn't deserve it, not because the money wouldn't solve everything, but because Marcus Chen wasn't a thief. 2 years ago, when his world collapsed around a fraud scandal he had nothing to do with, he could have pointed fingers or taken shortcuts to rebuild his life. Instead, he had chosen the hard path, working honest jobs to support his daughter with dignity intact. Moving with quiet purpose, Marcus began organizing the scattered bills. He sorted them by denomination, stacking them neatly on the nightstand furthest from Vincent's sleeping form. The billionaire might be testing him, or this might genuinely be carelessness, but either way, leaving money scattered where anyone could take it was dangerous. From his cleaning cart, Marcus pulled a small notepad and pen. In his careful handwriting, he wrote a brief message about the security risk of leaving cash unsecured, suggesting a safe or bank deposit. He signed it simply, M. Chen, Night Cleaning Staff. Vincent's breathing hitched for just a moment, then resumed its steady rhythm. Marcus finished his cleaning duties and left the penthouse, carrying his integrity home like armor. Vincent Harrison sat up in bed the moment Marcus's footsteps faded down the hallway. He reached for the note on his nightstand, reading the careful handwriting by the light of his phone. The message was professional, thoughtful, and written with the precision of someone who understood financial security protocols. This wasn't the response of a desperate man or a common thief. This was the action of someone who had once managed other people's money, someone who understood fiduciary responsibility. Vincent looked at the neatly organized stacks of cash, each denomination sorted with mathematical precision. Even in the face of overwhelming temptation, Marcus Chen had treated the money with professional respect. Vincent's phone buzzed with a text from his head of security. "Sir, reviewing tonight's footage. The janitor organized your money and left a security advisory note. Never touched a single bill inappropriately. Recommend immediate background expansion." For the first time in years, Vincent Harrison felt something he had almost forgotten. Trust. Not the careful, contract-bound trust of business relationships, but genuine human faith in another person's character. Marcus Chen could have solved all his problems tonight, but instead he had protected Vincent's interests better than most of his paid security team. Vincent stood and walked to his window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was going home to a sick daughter and medical bills that would crush most people. Yet he had chosen honor over salvation. Have you ever witnessed someone make the right choice when the wrong choice would have been so easy to understand? Those moments restore our faith in humanity. The eviction notice arrived on a Tuesday morning, taped to Marcus's apartment door like a scarlet letter. 30 days to pay 3 months of back rent or face removal. Emma found it first, her small fingers tracing the official letterhead as Marcus returned from his morning shift at the diner. "What's this, Dad?" she asked, holding the paper with the careful reverence children reserve for adult documents they don't understand. Marcus took the notice, his stomach dropping as he read the familiar legal language. $2,400 in arrears, plus late fees. Another impossible number to add to the growing pile of impossibilities that defined their lives. "Just some paperwork, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But Emma wasn't fooled. At 9 years old, she had developed an uncomfortable awareness of adult problems. She saw the way her father's shoulders sagged when he thought she wasn't looking, heard the hushed phone conversations about payment plans and charity applications. That afternoon, while Emma napped on the couch, Marcus sat at their kitchen table surrounded by bills and medical statements. The numbers swam before his tired eyes, each figure representing another choice between rent and medicine, food and hope. He thought about Vincent Harrison's scattered money, how easy it would have been to solve everything with a handful of bills the billionaire probably wouldn't even miss. The weight of his choices pressed down like lead. Honor was expensive when your daughter was dying. Vincent Harrison made a phone call that would change everything. His private investigator, Patricia Wells, had worked for him for 8 years and specialized in the kind of deep background research that revealed character beneath circumstances. "Tell me about the Whitman and Associates scandal," Vincent said, leaning back in his office chair as Manhattan sprawled beyond his windows. Marcus Chen was the fall guy, Patricia replied without hesitation. Senior partner Richard Whitman was embezzling client funds for 2 years. When the SEC investigation started, Whitman planted evidence in Chen's files and leaked his name to the press. By the time Chen was cleared, his reputation was destroyed and Whitman had fled to a non-extradition country. And Chen never fought back. Couldn't afford the legal fees after losing his job. His wife had just died from cancer, leaving him with massive medical debt and a sick child. He took the first work he could find and disappeared from the financial world entirely. Vincent set down his phone, staring at Marcus's security notes still lying on his desk. The man cleaning his floors had once managed $100 million portfolios. He had been destroyed by someone else's greed, yet when faced with the chance to steal back what life had taken from him, he had chosen integrity instead. "Stevens," Vincent called to his head of security. "I want to know everything about Emma Chen's medical situation. And find out what Marcus needs to keep his apartment." Within an hour, Vincent knew the full scope of Marcus Chen's impossible situation. The third night, Vincent Harrison wasn't sleeping. He sat in his leather armchair in the corner of his bedroom, hidden in shadow, watching as Marcus entered for his cleaning routine. The money remained scattered across the bed, though Vincent had added more bills to increase the temptation. $300,000 now lay within arm's reach of a man whose daughter needed surgery and whose landlord demanded payment. Marcus paused at the threshold, his shoulders straightening as he took in the increased amount. Vincent watched every micro-expression cross the janitor's face. Surprise, calculation, longing, and then that same quiet resolve that had emerged 2 nights before. Without hesitation, Marcus began organizing the money again. His movements were efficient and respectful, treating each bill as if it belonged to someone who mattered. Vincent noticed how Marcus's hands never lingered, how he worked with the focused professionalism of his former career. "You don't have to do that," Vincent said quietly from the shadows. Marcus froze, his hands still holding a stack of hundreds. He turned slowly, meeting Vincent's eyes across the darkened room. There was no guilt in his expression, no embarrassment at being caught. Just the calm dignity of a man who had nothing to hide. "The money should be secured, Mr. Harrison. Leaving it exposed creates unnecessary risk." Vincent studied Marcus's face in the dim light, seeing past the janitor's uniform to the accomplished man beneath. "Even when that money could solve all your problems? If this story moves you, we'd love to know where you're watching from tonight." Marcus set down the money and faced Vincent fully. "My problems aren't solved by creating new ones, Mr. Harrison. Taking what doesn't belong to me would make me someone I can't live with." Vincent stood, stepping into the light. "Even if it means your daughter doesn't get her surgery?" The words hit Marcus like a physical blow, but his expression never wavered. "Especially then. Emma needs to be proud of her father, not ashamed of what he did to save her. You know this was a test." "I suspected," Marcus replied quietly. "Most people don't leave money scattered like fallen leaves unless they're checking who picks it up." Vincent walked to his nightstand and pulled out a thick folder. "I know who you really are, Marcus Chen. I know about Whitman and Associates, about Richard Whitman framing you for his crimes. I know about your wife's cancer, your daughter's heart condition, and the eviction notice you received yesterday." Marcus's composure finally cracked, just slightly. His jaw tightened as he processed how thoroughly Vincent had invaded his privacy. "I also know," Vincent continued, "that in 30 years of business, I've never met anyone who passed this test. Not once. My last 5 employees stole from me within a week. My own brother took money from my nightstand when he visited last Christmas." Vincent extended the folder to Marcus. "This contains your vindication. Proof of Whitman's fraud, evidence that will restore your reputation. And a job offer as my chief financial officer." Marcus stared at the folder, his hands trembling slightly as the weight of redemption settled over him. 6 months later, Marcus Chen sat in the executive boardroom of Harrison Industries, reviewing quarterly reports in his tailored suit. The corner office with its Manhattan view still felt surreal, but Emma's laughter from the adjoining family room made it real. Vincent had insisted on creating a space where Marcus could work while staying close to his daughter during her recovery. Emma's surgery had been flawless. The best pediatric cardiac team in the country had operated at Vincent's expense, and now she ran through the office corridors with the boundless energy of a healthy 9-year-old. Her latest report card hung proudly on Marcus's office wall, next to the newspaper article that had cleared his name and exposed Richard Whitman's crimes. "Dad, Mr. Vincent wants to know if you're ready for the 3 o'clock meeting," Emma announced, skipping into the boardroom with chocolate on her chin from the reception desk candy bowl. Marcus smiled, wiping her face with his handkerchief. "Tell him I'll be right there." Vincent appeared in the doorway, his expression warm as he watched the father-daughter interaction. The cynical billionaire who had tested employees with scattered money had discovered something more valuable than wealth: the restoration of faith in human integrity. "The Jakarta project files are ready for your review," Marcus said, standing to gather his materials. "Before we start," Vincent replied, "I wanted you to know. The cleaning crew found money scattered in the guest bedroom last night. The new janitor took $200. Marcus shook his head, smiling sadly. Trust is earned one honest choice at a time. If this story touched your heart, let us know where you're listening from and subscribe for more inspiring tales.